In the hours before the Justice Department named Robert Mueller as special prosecutor in the Russia investigation, many Republicans were resisting that step and urged caution over the allegations. Here's what House Speaker Paul Ryan said earlier today.
So there are a lot of unanswered questions. What I told our members is, now is the time to gather all the pertinent information. We can't deal with speculation and innuendo, and there's clearly a lot of politics being played.
Well, Democrats were having none of it. Here's Congressman Elijah Cummings, ranking member of the House Oversight Committee.
Speaker Ryan has shown he has zero appetite for any investigation of President Trump.
Well, two different points of view, both represented here with the panel. Jeffrey Toobin, Dana Bash, Jack Kingston, Paul Begala, Amanda Carpenter, and Kayleigh McEnany. Kayleigh, what's your reaction to the naming of Mueller?
Look, many of us had full faith in the Justice Department and Rod Rosenstein, who I think proved himself tonight when he did appoint a special prosecutor. He clearly thought it was in the best interest for everyone. I think he was correct in that. And this is good for the Trump administration for two reasons. Many of us have been saying there's no evidence of collusion, no evidence. Well, this is going to force the Democratic Party's hand when, in fact, you have an independent prosecutor coming out and saying there is no evidence of Russian collusion. They cannot attack the messenger here. Not only
well, actually, the prosecutor would just say there's either evidence of illegality or not whether or not there's collusion.
Right. But when he says we do not have probable cause to pursue this, there are no charges that are going to be put forth. So I think that will be a good thing for the Trump administration. Number two, the last 8 years, we have seen his trust in American institutions demolished at the Justice Department when Obama's Attorney General Loretta Lynch meets with Bill Clinton, the IRS bullying Tea Party groups at the State Department, mishandling classified information. This will restore the American people's trust in institutions amid a highly partisan environment. It's good all the way around.
But wait a minute. I'm sorry, but hasn't President Trump gone after American institutions more than any president in recent memory? I mean, the intelligence community, the Justice Department, I mean, it really, he goes after it all the time.
That's what he came to Washington to do, to burn it to the ground, destroy the so-called deep state who's out there to attack him and leaking left and right and committing felonies.
There's no rational world. Can we just cut through the crap here? There's no rational world where this is good news for the Trump administration. Donald Trump will be held accountable for whatever he did. But I want to know who's going to hold the Republicans accountable who enabled this man to go this far. We knew from day one what kind of person Donald Trump was. We knew that he had no respect for anyone, let alone the rule of law. And so I want to know what's going to happen to people like Reince Priebus, who demanded everyone in the GOP pledge loyalty to this guy. And now all these Republicans are handcuffed to Donald Trump. Where has this gotten us? Where are the people, the surrogates that barked and clapped like circus seals in praise of everything this man did that was bad? Investigations as far as the eye can see.
Don't interrupt. Let her finish.
Are you feeling good about that?
Well, how about letting her finish and then you can respond?
Well, I want to know, I think Republicans like you who have given your loyalty to Donald Trump, what has he done for you? He's dragged you into a terrible place. And you should walk away.
Actually, if I look at what Donald Trump has done for me in middle-class America, he has brought down the illegal border crossings by 60%. He's renegotiated trade agreements. He's brought unemployment down to a low level. He's restoring American confidence in jobs. He pulled out of TPP. He's saying we're going to renegotiate NAFTA. And he's doing all these. I mean, give him some credit where there has been credit.
I'm not giving him credit. He is dragging down.
Hold on. Let's just focus on the actual news tonight, Mueller. Paul, I mean,
can I just for those time to Amanda?
Yeah. For those Americans, though,
for
those Americans who actually want to know, did the President of the United States try to stop Director Comey from investigating Michael Flynn? They may never get that answer because maybe there was not enough evidence to bring a case against it, and in which case we won't hear anything from Director Mueller.
We don't know that. Get back to the debate that Jeffrey had with Professor Dershowitz. Many independent counsels feel a need for the public interest to then report. And that's controversial because usually you're supposed to speak with an indictment, but that type of thing might prompt a report. I would say Donald Trump ran on a pledge of law and order, and now God help him, he's going to get it. Mr. Mueller is a credible law enforcement official, and he is going to get to the bottom of it. He may be perfectly, pristinely innocent, and I will accept that if that's what we find. But he is sweating bullets now. The next big story is going to be that the president has to lawyer up. That's not a bad thing. It's a good thing. He needs to lawyer up. right away. Not the White House counsel doesn't represent Donald Trump. He represents
Both Dershowitz and Tubin were last night were saying he should do that now.
He should have
Yeah.
done it yesterday.
Yeah.
Right.
And by the way, he may well have.
Probably already
We don't
has.
know. And he has had a lawyer in the past. Mark Kasowitz in New York City.
Right.
He's a civil lawyer.
Right.
Whether he's retained a criminal lawyer, I
Isn't
don't
he?
know.
But he's the lawyer who's also representing the Russian company.
What a coincidence.
But Anderson, let me point out something. We've had independent prosecutors or special counsels going back to 1875. Ulysses Grant named the first one because of the whiskey ring or something going on there. There have been 20 since 1983. So this isn't something unusual. Jimmy Carter had to deal with it, Ronald Reagan, Bill Clinton.
No, Ronald
And
Reagan
so-
never had
Yeah,
Russians
Iran
in the
Contra, he
Oval
had to deal
Office
with it.
after our government
He
put
had to deal
sanctions
with it.
on them.
But
for
let me say this, and
malicious
Let him
cyber
finish. Let him
security
finish.
stuff.
Let Congressman finish.
Let me say this, as
was
somebody who
Reagan.
was involved with the campaign, I absolutely do believe they're going to show that there's no collusion. And what's going to happen then is some of the partisans aren't going to be as satisfied or magnanimous as my friend Paul, who said he can live with the verdict, but others are going to move the goalposts and say, oh, what about this? Are they going to say he didn't have the resources he needed, he didn't have all the right lawyers, or the Republicans drug, or there were too many subpoenas back
He'll
and forth?
tell us.
or something
Mr.
like
Mueller
that.
will tell us. Will
And-
you be of good faith if Mr. Mueller feels like he's not getting the resources? I believe he will certainly let the Justice Department know, maybe the Congress. That is an important point. Senator Coons raised it. Senator Franken's been talking about it already. He needs to be properly resourced, but I think he will be.
I believe
He will be. And the
He
Democrats who
probably
have been-
wouldn't have agreed to do this knowing him.
But the
unless he got
idea
the promise
that
he had
that I mean, is it a done deal that this will answer everybody's questions? I mean, to the point that the panelists were making, it could end with Mueller determining there is no actual law that was broken. Democrats could still say, well, what about, it seems like there's acts of collusion, whether or not they're illegal or not, whether it's a question of are they appropriate?
I think the only appropriate answer to that is I don't know at this point, and I'm not sure that answer is knowable at this point. Mueller is, in addition to being a very accomplished prosecutor, he's also a very experienced person in Washington and in the world, and he understands the importance of the larger questions here, independent of the criminal culpability of any individual. So he will be aware of the need for some sort of public disclosure. Whether he files a report, how he makes a public disclosure, I don't know what the answer is, and I don't know if he knows at this point. But certainly, I mean, Alan was saying it's all over. We'll never know. He's just going to either indict or fold up shop. I don't know that that's the case, and I think it may well
But
not
I can tell
be.
you the fear in the White House is that there will be answers to questions we didn't even know we had. And that's the fear of a special prosecutor.
And
the other thing that I just want to add really quickly to the idea of him lawyering up, that my understanding is that the advice that he's going to get is he should do that immediately, not just for his own personal legal reasons, but also to protect the White House staff in a way that they haven't been protected. Your friend Lanny Davis was taking all the incoming during the Clinton administration, or at least the White House staff could deflect to him in a way that this White House staff has not been able to do yet.
And as Dana
There's one other
mentioned,
thing in the
as
statement.
Dana,
Well, Paul, you're there.
When the White House put out a statement, it's very interesting. Just 3 sentences. No collusion. I look forward to being resolved quickly, and I'll never stop fighting for the issues that matter. The sentence that's not in there, I and my staff and my campaign will cooperate fully. He is going to have to. He's making a huge mistake politically and probably legally by not volunteering that he will cooperate fully. There are going to be evidence that will be subpoenaed. You don't have an option. Witnesses that will be called. He should pledge full cooperation. And the fact that he has
is
not
going to-
tells me something.
He's going to fully cooperate just
Why did
because
he
that
say
wasn't
so?
in
How
his
can you say
statement.
Why did he say so?
Let me tell you the individuals who should be scared. As we know, this investigation has wide latitude. It can go any which way. The folks who should be very frightened right now are the leakers who have
Absolutely.
committed felonies, who have endangered national security, not the Trump administration. There's no evidence of Russian collusion. People point to Carter Page, a fired staffer who never met President Trump, who was given a cease and desist order. That's not evidence of collusion. There's zero evidence, and this is not going to be.
But when
it's
you
going to
say
be
he's
solved.
going to cooperate, I mean, you don't know what the White House response is going to be. You have no way of knowing.
They are going to cooperate.
You don't know.
That statement indicates we know that President
Second night.
Trump, when he's not going to cooperate with something, he announces it, he says it. That statement indicates
But
cooperation.
he has already said, I mean, his whole attitude toward all these investigations has been, look, if they want to investigate, they can investigate. He's never given a full-throated, we are going to give them all the information they want statement.
He said in an interview just last week, I want this to be fully vetted. I want it to wrap up quickly. I want my name to be vindicated.
It being fully vetted and wrap up
When he
quickly.
starts pulling it, remember, one thing that's scary about, and remember in Washington also, people change dance partners frequently, but rarely do they change dances and our teams. And so what's happening now, everybody's saying Mueller is this great guy and we all like him, but I have a feeling 2 months from now, people are going to be saying, oh, what's he doing going after Tony Podesta and the uranium deal? And everybody's going to have Paul Begala's reaction right now.
Let's try not to let the people know what people are going to do 2 months from now. Let's talk about what
I
happened
can't tell if
tonight.
that's
How did Monica Lewinsky end up being one of the victims of a real estate investigation called Whitewater? I mean, we never really know which direction they're going to go in because they have broad latitude.
That's really an important point, actually. I mean, and Brother Begala certainly knows this because I used to visit him in his office in the West Wing. I mean, you don't know where this is going to go. And once you have someone with subpoena power, I mean, the Ken Starr's investigation began with a land deal in Arkansas, and it wound up with Monica Lewinsky.
Well, Paul, I mean, since you lived through that, to the congressman's point, what does it do to a White House? I mean, you talked the other night about President Clinton's ability to compartmentalize stuff, you said thought he had a remarkable ability, and people were surprised at that. But what does it do to a White House in terms of, for Republicans and people who want the president's legislative agenda to move forward? What is it?
Right. There are good people in that building who are going to become collateral damage. This president will throw them under the bus. They need to listen to what John Dean said. They need to do what President Clinton did, which is compartmentalize. And it was our second term. We really had our act together. It was a very well-run shop at that point. We weren't at the early stages like President Trump is when you're going to have a lot of bumping. So there were very few people, I was one of them, assigned to impeachment. Everybody else had to do their job. And if you talked about it in a meeting, you were punished. You were chastised. I'm not kidding. People stayed in their lanes. We called it the parallel universe. And if you were not part of the parallel universe,
it doesn't seem there's a lot of lanes in this.
They need a lot more discipline.
We got to take a break. For our viewers just joining us, we are continuing. We're going to continue to bring all the latest tonight. First, let's go to Pamela Brown for the latest on this story. Pamela?
Well, the latest is that Rod Rosenstein Anderson, the Deputy Attorney General, wanted to make sure that he didn't give a long advance warning to the White House and to the Attorney General Jeff Sessions about this decision to appoint Bob Mueller as special counsel. In fact, the White House was basically blindsided by this, only finding out about half an hour before the announcement and after Bob Mueller had already signed the order that he would essentially take over the Russia probe. So it's clear that Rod Rosenstein wanted to do this by the book, and that is a big reason why he didn't give that advance warning. And we're told, Anderson, that this decision to do this had been in the works for several days, at least since shortly after the firing of the former FBI Director James Comey. In fact, we know that Bob Mueller was at the Justice Department the day after, meeting with Rosenstein. But even as of late Friday, Rosenstein was telling people around him, according to our sources, that he didn't feel a need to appoint a special counsel, that he felt like, unless the FBI investigation was imperiled, that there was no need. But clearly there have been new revelations, including the latest one yesterday, that the president allegedly told James Comey that he wanted him to stop the Flynn probe back in February. It raises the question, Anderson, if that was a tipping point for this, or sort of how that factored into all of this.
And Rosenstein making this decision today, he'd actually recently stated he didn't think a special counsel was needed, right?
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. So he had been telling those people that around him that, look, I don't think it's needed, despite the growing pressure from Capitol Hill, despite, with the Democrats in particular were saying that he needed to do so or resign. He wasn't letting the pressure get to him, according to sources we've been speaking with. And he said he was sort of resisting the calls for a special counsel. So it does make you believe that the latest revelation about James Comey's memos did play a role in this decision to, in fact, bring Bob Mueller on board as special counsel and remove the Justice Department from the investigation.
And just to be clear, there's a possibility the President of the United States would be interviewed or would have to testify in some way.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. He could be deposed depending on what Bob Mueller sees fit in this investigation. So essentially, he will have all the authorities as the Attorney General, so he can convene a grand jury, he can issue subpoenas, he can certainly have the president interviewed as part of this investigation. investigation, whatever he thinks is necessary.
And as part of this investigation, would he also be looking into the idea of obstruction of justice?
He very well could. And what could be telling here is if the Comey memos are released, because if they're not, if he doesn't want them released, that could be an indication that he is looking at whether the president tried to interfere in the investigation and obstruct justice. And so he would want to keep those memos private, close hold, because it would be a key part of the investigation. We're not sure if that's the direction he wants to go in, but that's just something to look out for, Anderson.
And Brown, thanks for late and new reaction to the White House. Let's go right now to CNN Jim Acosta. So what is the White House saying tonight?
Yeah, Anderson, I just talked to a White House official here who described staffers here as exhausted, quote, exhausted because of the last 72 hours of bombshell announcements. The Russia news that came down Monday when it was revealed that the president had talked about classified information with Russian officials. Then last night's news about the Comey memo, in which the retired or former FBI director said that the president had tried to shut down the Flynn investigation. And then, of course, the news that is coming down tonight that Bob Mueller, the special counsel in the Russia investigation. And I think one other very interesting point, Anderson, to point out, and I just got this from an administration official, that the Attorney General, Jeff Sessions, was here at the White House when the Mueller news came down. So the president and his Attorney General, Jeff Sessions, were both very much in the dark when this news came down from the Justice Department that a special counsel had been named. At the same time, we should point out the response from the White House, the official response from the White House coming from the president is very restrained, very toned down. Let's put this statement up if we can, just to show you how restrained this is. No shots taken at anybody here. Here's the president saying, as I have stated many times, a thorough investigation will confirm what we already know. There was no collusion between my campaign and any foreign entity. He goes on to say, I look forward to this matter concluding quickly. In the meantime, I will never stop fighting for the people and the issues that matter most to the future of our country. But Anderson, President Trump's going to be waking up to a very different world tomorrow. That is because he cannot, as he did with the former FBI director Jim Comey, call him over here to the White House for a meeting, for dinner, and try to apply pressure on him. He cannot do that, obviously, with Bob Mueller, the special prosecutor. As everybody has said over the last several hours since this announcement came down, his credentials, his reputation is really beyond any question, Anderson.
Yeah, Jim Acosta, appreciate the update. Thank you.